Yeah, so I'm pretty new to video prospecting. I tried it for a little while when I was selling into the healthcare vertical. Now I switched back over to automotive. So I haven't really dabbled with video in that vertical yet, and I'm selling to S&B right now. So really just maybe some like best practices, tips to kind of help. I've done some video, like I said, and we tried Vidyard a couple months back when COVID first hit, but didn't see like a ton of success. So always looking to kind of just try new things out to see what's working out, because as you know, things are different a month ago than they were, or now than they were like a month ago. So
Yeah.
want to try some new stuff out.
Yeah. So you're selling into dealerships now, right?
Yeah, so I'm selling car dealerships. I do everything from prospecting, setting demos to running the demos themselves. So full sales cycle, and
Yeah.
always just kind of looking for creative ways to kind of get in touch with these guys. They're so busy right now because business is starting to pick up, but how can I kind of be creative and differentiate myself from every other sales rep that's calling them all day long?
Yeah, really. And how long have you been in this role selling to dealerships?
Yeah, so I've been in this role since January.
All right. So you sold pre-COVID, you got through all that mess, and now they're starting to pick back up again. So you've seen the whole range of it. Typically, what's your go-to for getting people's attention?
I mean, honestly, just a cold call, just picking up the phone, getting them on the phone. And really, I think what's been I've seen the most success with right now is just talking to these people, like they're human beings, right? Like it's such a hard time. People are super stressed out. People are getting COVID, they're opening up. Like it's just such a crazy time. So just being able to like really be personalized with my messaging and then just like talk to them, like, asking how's the business doing, asking things like that have kind of worked pretty well as far as like getting demos and just, continuously following up is really important. So I'd like to maybe focus on like prospecting, so new stuff, and then also maybe like, in the middle of the sales cycle. I know that's like something people really do now is like throughout the sales cycle sending videos, which I haven't tried yet.
In your sales process, is there only one stakeholder who has a say in the matters, whether or not they buy your service or not, or is there typically multiple stakeholders who kind of have to reach consensus before they purchase?
So it's typically just the owner will sign the contract. There's like influencers, like human resources and stuff like that. But for these size businesses that I'm calling, it's typically less than 5 locations. There's typically just one decision maker.
All right. One decision maker, couple stakeholders through HR and whatnot. Who do you usually get to talk to? The owner, or is there someone else you're talking to?
So I'm always targeting the owner. The problem with dealerships though is the owner's not really around. Like they're running around, they're at the auction, they're busy, they're running multiple locations, they're running back and forth. A lot of them don't even have like a direct line. So that's been tough. So I was thinking with video, they're opening your emails, you're reaching out that way. If I can be a little bit more personalized and actually send out videos, I think that could help.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, especially if they're, not around to reach by phone,
Yeah.
You have to send an email that gets directly to them, or if they have somebody helping them with their email, you send a video email so good that whoever the filter person is actually passes it on to them, right?
Exactly.
So I think a lot of those sales emails, they have an assistant or something kind of combing through those on their behalf, and a lot of them never get in front of their eyes. So you got to send something unique enough. Okay. All right. And then how long is a sales cycle typically?
Honestly, anywhere from like a week to 6 months, I would say on average. Obviously, the larger the dealership, the more people that have to get involved that are going to be using the software. But I would say on average, probably a couple weeks to maybe 6 months at the most.
Cool. And do you use LinkedIn much to either prospect or stay in front of clients or anything like that?
So I use more LinkedIn just to be more knowledgeable about the industry. I follow like all the OEMs. I have a few dealers on there, but honestly, not a lot of these owners or general managers are even on LinkedIn. So I haven't spent a ton of time on LinkedIn, more so just familiarizing myself with the industry is like what I use LinkedIn for.
Well, so obviously the prospecting will be the more important side of things. We'll focus on that. We'll touch on a few different ways you can use it during the sales cycle, but it's one of those things where when you're using video during the sales cycle, when you already have their attention, you already have a relationship with them, just like, 9 ways to do video right and really only 1 way to do video wrong type of thing. Where when you're in the reverse situation, you're prospecting, there's so many ways to do video wrong and very few ways to do video right. So we'll certainly focus on prospecting more. But yeah, definitely you should use it throughout. How do you feel about being on camera? Is that something you're comfortable with?
Yeah, I don't mind it at all. This is the world we're living in now. So
Cool. So that's good. All right. Well, I think the first thing to focus on is some things you mentioned earlier. You mentioned that what's working for you right now is when you're very personalized in your approach. Most importantly, when you're talking to them like they're human, and it's just you talking to them, not sales rep talking to prospect, right? And I think that is got to be the tone of your videos too, right? Got to make sure in those videos that same type of casual, it's just me talking to you. In this case, we're talking to each other via video email, but if we were sitting next to each other at a coffee shop or a bar, I'd be talking to you in the same way, right? That type of a tone. I think we got to capture that in the videos. So just make sure that comes across. Because truthfully, what I see a lot of people doing is they get very focused on the exact words that they're using in their video, right? And the exact delivery and everything like that.
mm-hmm.
And they get so focused on that they don't actually capture the real magic of who they are and their personality and the way they communicate, right? A lot of people think a perfect video is a video with no mistakes and a video with no, that doesn't go too long and a video that has perfect lighting. Like people have this idea what a perfect video is. And I'm telling you, that's not a perfect video. Like for your video to be perfect, the logistical factors of like, can I be seen well? Can I be heard? Has got to be good enough, right? Once it's good enough, there's no point in investing to make it any better. And then for a video to be perfect, it has to make the recipient feel more connected to the sender. That's the entire purpose of this, right? Of using video is that people get the sensation that they know, like, and trust you before they've ever met you. So the ideal video, the perfect video, has to accomplish that goal. And that's the question you got to ask yourself is, when I send this video, will the recipient feel more connected to me than they were before? And if the answer is yes, you've got yourself a good video. If the answer is no, try again, right? And again, it goes back to what you said about being personable and making people feel like you're human. I think the final thing I would throw in there kind of to make this, perfect video is that you've got to make sure when they watch this video, they're glad they watched the video, which means it can't be an entirely self-serving video. There's got to be something about the video, which again, makes the recipient glad they took the time to watch it. Because the truth is, if somebody takes the time to watch your video and wishes they hadn't, they will never watch a video again.
Yeah,
Your ability to prospect them and communicate with them is pretty much dead in the water.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I want to start. Focus on your videos being human and relatable and casual, but also focus on there being something in the video for the recipient, something they can benefit from. That is what truly makes a perfect video. Is when you can say they're glad they watched it and they feel like they know me better. If you can say those two things about your video, you're in great shape. Which again ties into what you were saying about what works in the world of cold calling.
Awesome.
So as far as making the video a video that makes people feel like they know you, like you, and trust you, most of that is going to come from just being relaxed and casual on camera. Sounds like you are pretty good at that already, right? So I don't think that'll be too much of a challenge. The only thing I might say is if you notice your first few videos are kind of awkward and wooden, like very quickly knock out 12 videos to 12 other people just to get kind of the awkward ones out of the way. So send videos to your colleagues and coworkers, send videos to friends and family. Heck, send videos to yourself, reminding yourself what you have to buy next time you're at the grocery store. Send videos to current customers of yours to check in on them and see how they're doing. Because if you notice you're a little bit awkward and wooden in your video, there's generally no way to will yourself out of that. You just need to do it like 12 times in a row to get comfortable so that you don't, so that your brain doesn't respond in that such a weird, awkward way when you look into the camera lens.
Yeah, no, I love that you said that, because I remember like my first couple of videos, I like had my pitch, I was super excited. I was like, we're going to focus on this, different value props. And I was just getting really frustrated because I was like, okay, it's not perfect. It's not perfect. Like I didn't say exactly what I wanted to say, or I had an, and then I had to keep like re-recording, and I'm such a perfectionist, it's so hard. And then I'm like sending it to my boss for feedback, and she's like, well, what about this? What about this? And I was getting like so in my head about it. And at the end of the day, like, it's like sending an email. If there's like a typo in an email, it happens, like you're sending it to a person, and it's okay. Like if you accidentally said one, or something, no one's going to beat you up about it. Everybody's human. They might even like laugh, if you like made a mistake. I know I would.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and a lot of people talk about, this feeling of perfectionism with video. And I would say that, perfectionism doesn't have to hold you back. You just have to be working with the right definition of perfection,
Yeah.
right? And again, when your definition of perfection is no mistakes made, hand doesn't shake, lighting perfect, no background sound, that gets into a messy trap. But again, if you just shift your version of perfection to it makes them feel closer to me and they're glad they watched it, it's okay to be perfectionistic at that point. You just, again, gotta align what you consider perfect. So,
Love that.
all right. Let's see. So I think now we have to kind of get down into what we're going to talk about, right? Because I think we already covered, how to be more relatable on camera. Again, practice. I guess the only thing I'd add in it before we move on in the world of like having people feel like they know, like, and trust you when they watch your video. In any way you can, try to give your viewer me too moments when they're watching your video. And sometimes they physically notice these things and sometimes they don't notice them. So a me too moment somebody might actually notice is if your cat walks through the background of your video. And actually, to demonstrate, I have my cat here who loves to sit on my lap. And a lot of times I'll be doing videos and I'll be petting a cat while I'm doing it, right? These are me too moments. People notice it and they go, oh, shoot, she's just like me, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes those me too moments are subtle. They don't really get noticed. Sometimes just in the way that you're speaking, in the way that you're really relaxed and casual. Sometimes in the way that you like have to pause to gather your thoughts like I just did, right? These subtle things people don't really notice that makes them feel like you're like they are because you go through the same things they go through. Even the setting that you're in, right? The fact that I'm just sitting in a regular old office and I don't have like some fancy Zoom background going on that makes me look really professional, right? People can look at this home office and relate to me and feel like, hey, he's a guy just like me, sitting in his home office, petting his cat, you know?
Yeah.
So any way you can, give people me too moments. And again, sometimes there are things people would notice. Sometimes they're very subtle things, just in the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you're dressed, that make people feel like I can get along with this person. I can relate to this person. So I think that's all I'll say on the topic of making people feel like they know, I can trust you. The other piece of perfection we talked about for the perfect video is making them glad they watched the video. And this is probably the more difficult one in most cases. Especially in prospecting, that's interesting. I'll give you kind of a framework to keep in mind for any video you send in any context. Now, I think with prospecting, we're probably gonna have to zoom in a little bit closer than this really wide framework. But for any video you ever send to anyone, the rule is always the same. Make sure they're glad they watched it. And I would say there are 3 main reasons why someone might be glad they watched your video. One, because your video had some educational value, right? After watching your video, they know something they didn't know before. It could have entertainment value, right? Could just bring a smile to their face while they're watching it. And it could also have emotional value, right? Could give them warm and fuzzies when they watch it. So again, when we zoom out a little bit, right, you can imagine maybe sending a video to a customer of yours who just closed a deal, thanking them and telling them how much of a pleasure they were to work with and how typically when you work with dealerships, you don't get nearly the level of professionalism that they gave and they were just the best. That's a warm and fuzzy thing, right? They'll be glad they watched your video because they feel good after they watch it. We don't see a lot of entertainment, right? I mean, I think some people have the right personality and creativity that they'll do entertaining videos. I would say maybe if you sing happy birthday to your client on their birthday, right, that would be an entertainment video. Honestly, if I were to take a video, maybe just petting my cat, well, I thought that would probably give some entertainment value. Generally, though, the value that you provide in videos falls into that like education category, where basically you're teaching them something they didn't know before. Or you're sharing ideas that they hadn't thought of before, right? So it's either like knowledge or ideas, right, that you're sharing. So in the world of prospecting, though, this is a little bit more difficult because you ultimately have to get very much to the point, you know? Usually where I see the pure education play is in long-term nurturing campaigns. Let's say you're unsuccessful at getting someone's attention or they tell you, hey, not now, maybe touch base in 2021. You could throw them on like a once a month campaign where once a month you put useful, interesting information in front of them, stuff that you're learning, from, your research on LinkedIn. You don't really have a direction. You don't really have a call to action. You're just saying, hey, this might be valuable to you, right? Providing value that way. With direct prospecting, you generally want to be more direct than that. So in those cases, we usually focus more on particular pains, and the value you provide to them is maybe an idea they hadn't thought of before, right? Again, as long as they're glad they opened your email, you're good to go. So let's do this. What are 3 specific, and as specific as possible, moments in your prospect's day where they think to themselves, oh crap, and your product can solve that oh crap moment for them? Can you think of 3 of those specific pain points or 3 moments?
Yeah. So one is just time saving. So we can put time back into their day, which is huge, especially right now with everything that's going on. The auto industry is picking up. So they're selling a ton of cars. They just don't have time to do interviews and bring people in and post on job boards. So time savings is big. Actually I have our little, I wrote them down so I can, so we also use like a multi-channel approach. So a lot of these smaller businesses, they only post on 1 job board. So we can post on 9 for them. So that's like another value add that we can do. And then just finding the best quality applicants with a good employment brand. So a lot of the dealers that I work with, they have maybe not the best career site. They don't have an HR team built out. So what we can do is help them attract the best quality over getting a ton of quantity when people just post on like 1 job board, such as Indeed.
Cool. So what you just did with me is you explained to me in efficient and general terms what your company did. And I think I have a pretty rough idea right now of what your company does because you use efficient and general terms to do it. And that's what we're trained to do. And that's what, in this context, you talking to me is exactly what you needed to do. However, that same approach of efficient and general does not work in cold emails.
Okay.
Because everybody uses efficient general terminology of save time, higher quality candidates, more efficiency, etc. And they just tune it out. What I've found works better in cold emails is emails that are strangely specific. We're using them right in on one particular moment in their day where, again, they think to themselves, oh, crap, but you could have solved that oh crap moment for them. And you write an entire email focused on that one particular moment, ignoring 95% of what you can offer them. You just focus on that one moment. That tends to get attention, turn heads, and stop the scroll versus the general language. So you just gave it to me in general language, right? So you talked about saving time. You talked about like not having to do repeat posting to job boards. You talked about getting quality applicants. Those were kind of some of the general things. Mm-hmm. Can we focus on particular moments, individual instances where those mattered?
Yeah. So one thing right now for the automotive industry is hiring good technicians. So this is a pain across the board for all dealerships, is to hire good quality technicians, because as things start to open up, their service department is super busy, that a lot of these guys are booking out appointments like multiple weeks out. And that's a problem if someone needs an oil change or something like that. So I would say like that's like one of their biggest pain points that we've been focusing on, is like hiring good technicians.
And what happens, well, let me ask this. Is it common for a dealership to hire a technician they think is going to be good and then find out they're not a good fit?
No, so it's an aging workforce. So there's just like a dime a dozen. There's like not enough technicians out there.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So there's like a shortage of technicians across the country, and it's only going to get worse next year. As time goes on, it's an aging workforce.
So if it's a countrywide shortage, how does your software tool help with that?
Yeah, so we help them create a really good employment brand to help them attract that top talent. So when someone goes to their website, someone goes on job boards, they have a really, really good employment brand, and people want to work for them. It's just like, every tech company in Chicago, they have to have a really great brand. They have to offer a million perks, all of these things to attract the best people. The same goes for car dealerships with technicians. It's just really tough because there's such a shortage. It was like, 6 months ago, unemployment rate was 2%. What can I do to differentiate myself to hire the best people? It's like that with technicians now in automotive. There's such a short supply of people to hire that they have to do so much. Like, some things that they do is like they pay for their schooling. They'll pay for all of their equipment, like all of their tools and stuff. Like there's so much money that they invest to find good technicians. But if they don't have a good employment brand, no one's going to know that they're even like hiring for them.
Interesting. Do you think you can think of an individual moment in the hiring manager's day where, again, they would think to themselves, oh crap, you could solve that problem for them, related to what you just told me?
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of them are booking their appointments out 2-3 weeks, which means that they have open bays and they're not hiring. So that's like a very specific point saying, okay, I know you're probably super busy with service. Things are starting to open up. What we see is a lot of dealerships are booking appointments out 2 to 3 days. And we're able to help with that by helping you build a really good employment brand to help attract those top technicians.
So booking out 2 to 3 days.
Sometimes weeks at a time. Imagine you wanted to go get an oil change and you went to your local Honda dealer and they said, yeah, can you come in 3 weeks later? Well, you're probably just going to go to another dealership.
Yeah.
As a customer, you're not going to want to wait 3 weeks to get your oil change because maybe you want to go on a road trip or you're doing something, you're driving far.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Did that answer the question?
Yep, that's really specific. I like it. So next, we need to create a subject line for this email that we're going to do. Generally speaking, I found that there's really 3 reasons people open an email, right? One is because of who sent it and the relationship they have with you. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this call, once you already have a relationship, a conversation going with a person, you can almost afford to get sloppy with your video emails and you might be able to get away with it. But when you're prospecting, you absolutely can. You have to be completely on point all the time. And one of those things is the subject line you create, because again, you don't have that great relationship with them. So the other 2 reasons people open an email, one is because after reading the subject line, they have reason to believe there's going to be something valuable inside the email. Basically, when people are looking through the email inbox, they're asking themselves the question, what's in it for me? And you've got to answer that what's in it for me question to your subject line. The other reason, though, is just good old-fashioned curiosity. There should be some voice in the client's head when they see your subject line that's saying, what is this? Because if they know exactly what this email is all about, if they know exactly what they're going to see when they open the email, they almost feel like they don't have to open it, right? Or they feel like they have enough information on the outside to decide whether or not it's worth opening that email. And ideally, you don't want them to have enough information about what the email is to know whether or not it needs to be opened, right? There needs to be a lot left unsaid, a little bit of mystery, right? A little bit, but again, you still need to answer the "what's in it for me" question. To give you, 2 examples on opposite end of the spectrum here, a curiosity only subject line would be, "Did you know?" ... Okay, leaves a lot of curiosity, but ultimately it doesn't answer the question, what's in it for me? It doesn't give the person reason to believe this email is going to be valuable to them. And it kind of sounds like clickbait, right? Generally, when you see high curiosity, low value, that registers as clickbait. Another alternate email subject line that I've used before, which is very high on the value side of things, the what's in it for me side of things, but didn't have a lot of curiosity, is back when I was working at a company called BombBomb. I was trying to get a conversation started with people who had a free trial of the service. And one of the ways that I could help them and have a conversation with them is I could give them feedback on their videos. So the subject line I used to make that offer was, I can give you feedback on your videos. Not a lot of mystery in that. It's very clear, but it answers the question, what's in it for me? If the person wants feedback on their videos, they'll open the email. If they don't want feedback on the videos, they won't open the email. It's pretty direct. And again, the best subject lines weave 2 together, right? The best subject lines give them reason to believe it's going to be something valuable for them, but at the same time, again, leave them saying, what is this? And they aren't quite sure. They don't feel like they have enough information to really decide whether or not they need to open this email or not. So of course, then they have to open it to make that determination. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. I like that. I was even thinking of like a few things that would be helpful, kind of specific to the industry. But I like that. I can help you with this. I can help you with this. What are some of their pain points and how can I help with that?
Yeah. So, a very direct, probably more of a pure value subject line for this would be a subject line like, I can help reduce the wait time for appointments or the lag time for appointments, whatever phrase you use, right? Pretty direct. Something that I think might weave the 2 together is a subject line like oil change appointment 3 weeks out. Mm-hmm. If this dealership has a problem with oil change appointments being pushed pretty far out, that does suggest this email has something valuable for them. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of unclear, oil change appointment 3 weeks out. Well, what is this? Is this a customer complaining that they can't get an oil change appointment in time? Is this someone in the service department letting me know what's going on? Is this somebody selling me a tool to help with that?
Yeah.
it leaves a lot unsaid, right? So I would almost say that might be, if I was writing the email, that might be what I would try out. Some version of oil change appointment 3 weeks out would be the subject line. Note on subject lines too, it's important to make them look as casual as possible. Type them up the same way you type them up if you're sending it to a boss or colleague of yours. So for example, the worst thing you can do is capitalize every word in the subject line.
Yeah.
That totally looks like a marketing headline. Honestly, I've even flirted in the area of bad grammar and spelling just to make it look extra casual.
I've done that. Yeah. And I've actually gotten opens from it, like lowercase, like the H or something.
Yeah.
Me sending it, I'm like a real person. I'm not marketing. Yeah.
What I just typed up, right, when I didn't want to lose a thought, is oil change APPT 3 weeks out, right, for appointment. Again, very casual abbreviation of appointment. You wouldn't expect to see that in a marketing email, but you would totally see that in the boss.
Yeah, I wrote that, APPT.
There we go. Cool. So yes, make them more casual. Sometimes even minor errors can help. Again, you don't want to totally look hopeless, but minor errors can help. All right, so there's a subject line, oil change appointment 3 weeks out. Now, the next thing that you need to do with a good prospecting email is you need to make sure that you're giving them a compelling reason to watch the video, because they don't owe you watching that video. They aren't going to watch that video by default. And once they realize they don't recognize you, they're not necessarily all that likely to watch the video unless you give them a compelling reason. So what you need to make sure is what you type up below the body of the email provides that compelling reason as to why they should watch the video. Mm-hmm. Now, in prospecting emails, I've generally found there's 2 ingredients you should have in the typed up portion. One is the first sentence, maybe 2 sentences if you can make it concise and compelling. The first sentence should highlight the pain to make them extra clear. This is the pain I'm addressing. If this pain doesn't resonate with you, you can move right along. But if this pain does resonate with you, you should probably consider watching this video, right? So you want to highlight the pain in 1 sentence, maybe 2 sentences. And then the final sentence, you should make them some sort of a promise. Basically, if you watch this video, I will tell you something you don't already know, right? Basically, that promise kind of seals the deal on why they should watch the video. So first thing we need to do is write out a quick sentence as to what pain we're talking about. In 1 sentence, can you summarize that pain?
Yeah, so, if you watch this video, I will promise you that you'll learn a little bit more about employment brand and how we can help you hire the best technicians.
Cool. Let's focus on just a sentence on the pain itself. What is the pain that they're dealing with?
Yeah, so if you watch this video, I will help you find better technically I can't help them find better technicians though. So we can help with that. Like, we help build out your employment brand. We post on all the job boards. We do all these things. So, but by just watching the video, I guess we can help you uncover some ideas maybe.
Well, that's more of the promise statement. Generally, and there's probably better ways to word it, but a good safe way to word it is when you're doing the pain sentence, you can just start off with many companies in your industry, or many dealerships in your state, or many people I'm working with who have your job title struggle with blank. That's a generally good default way to get that pain in. So, I wrote down here, many dealerships I'm working with in whatever state you're selling into, right, are dealing with, what's the rest of that sentence? What's a concise way to frame up that pain point?
Are struggling to find good quality technicians.
All right.
So then I would say, if this is also something that you experience, I think it would make sense for you to watch this video to learn more about how we can help with that. Something like that.
Now, the subject line was oil change appointment 3 weeks out. So we should do something like many dealerships in your state are struggling to find good quality technicians, which is causing, what kind of language do they use? Their calendars to fill up, their service schedules to back up?
So they're, just like their schedules.
So causing their schedules to get backed up so that even a routine oil change
can be booked out, 2 to 3 weeks.
There we go. And again, that sentence, if someone is going through that, is going to grab their attention. If they're not going through that, they're going to move right along, but that's okay because this email isn't for them.
Yeah.
So many dealerships I'm working with in your state are struggling to find good quality technicians, which is causing the schedules to get backed up. So even routine oil change can be booked out 2 to 3 weeks. So that's the pain sentence.
Mhm.
Now we have to move into some sort of promise as to why they would watch the video. And again, you shouldn't word it in terms of you and your company. Honestly, you probably shouldn't even mention the name of your company. You can mention that in the video. They'll get around to it. And truthfully, they can see your signature line. They can figure out where you work.
Yeah, they know. And
Yeah,
and we've been selling into automotive for almost 10 years. Most dealerships have heard of us.
Yeah. Do you have any, like, I don't know, case studies, whether they're officially published or even just anecdotal from customers that you know that you've helped reduce their backlog of jobs?
Yeah, we have, and we have like blog posts for specifically to technician roles and stuff that I can include.
Oh, I don't. So I would say maybe your sentence is, I recently worked with a car dealership.
Mhm.
And again, if it's in their state, you can say it's in their state, or you can just say, maybe draw the commonality around size. You said you mostly target dealerships around the same size.
Yeah.
So you could say, hey, I recently worked with a car dealership, of, I don't know, 20 to 50 employees. And we were able to improve their employment brand. What did you say?
Yeah, we were able to help improve their employment brand, which led to them hiring, 3 technicians in the past 6 months or something like that.
I recently worked with a dealership about your size to their employment brand, which
And we can pull all the data too. Like we can pull out like all the number of hires, what the roles were, everything, because we can track all of that in our applicant tracking system. So I'll be able to pull real numbers for real dealerships to kind of like paint the picture.
All right, so I recently worked with a dealership about your size to improve their employment brand, which within 6 weeks had the desired effect of a full staff and I don't know, not empty calendar, that sounds bad.
Well, increase in bookings or something. Service bookings.
Yeah, you'll adjust the wording to make it industry specific, but there we go. So here we go. Our first sentence, many dealerships I'm working with in your state are struggling to find good quality technicians, which is causing schedules to get backed up. So even routine oil change can be booked out 2 to 3 weeks. I recently worked with a dealership about your size to improve their employment brand, which within 6 weeks had the desired effect for full staff and no backlog of service bookings. I'll explain more in my video. Let me know if you think this could help you.
Yep, I like that.
And then again, in your video, what should you say in the video? Again, the perfect video makes them glad they watched it, which means you have to deliver. Because what we've done through this subject line and through this type of email is we've almost created, given them an itch, right? A curiosity itch. And the video has to scratch that itch. So you have to tell them something they didn't know before, and you have to give them some good information in that video. Yeah. Like, for example, I don't know if employment brand is something that everyone knows exactly what it is, but maybe if you could explain that a little bit more. Because again, the intention of the typed out text is to give them enough information to make them realize they're missing information.
Yeah. So
but you can't tell them everything.
Yeah. So what I was thinking when I'm talking, I can talk about employment brand, and what I can do is use Vidyard, and I can toggle between like their career site and a career site we've built out to show them exactly what we can do for their dealership. I do that a lot with like healthcare. So I would show like, okay, this is your career site. I think there are a few ways that we can help, make a better employment brand. And here's one example of a customer that we were able to do that with, and they were able to get X, Y, and Z and kind of just have the numbers.
Perfect. Here's a thought. So I said there that the job of the typed up text is to give them enough information to make them realize they're missing information, right? Basically, what you're doing is you're opening a loop in their mind. In order to close that loop, they have to watch the video to scratch that itch.
Yeah.
So the job of the video is to deliver on that promise, scratch that itch, close that loop, give them the information that they were missing from the type of email. But then if you stop there, they'll be happy they got your email. And truthfully, if you cold call them in later, there'll be a better chance they want to talk to you. So it's definitely done a lot, but there's not a very good chance they're going to reply to you because that loop got closed, that itch got scratched. They're ready to move on with their day. So the job of the video is to then open up a new loop in their mind, give them a new itch that the only way for them to scratch that itch or close that loop is to reply back to you or call you or something. So try to keep that in mind in your video, right? The first 10, 15 seconds of your video, you're answering a question, you're closing a loop, you're making good your promise. Teaching them something they didn't know, giving them a bit of information. But again, that should be under 30 seconds. Then the next 30 seconds, final 30 seconds, is where you maybe open up a new loop in their mind and expose to them something else that they don't know and make them realize, again, there's something else they don't know. There's a new gap in their mind that they want to close that gap. And the only way to close that gap is by taking a call with you, right? Or replying to your email or something like that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So don't give them like too much, like exactly what we can do, but maybe give them like some example of a customer. I would love to do the same for you. Would be happy to set up a 15 to 20-minute call. You can either, respond back to this email or give me a call. Be like some type of call to action at the end.
So, beginning of your video, you explain to them what employment brand is and why it matters, right? In 30 seconds, maybe pull up a visual on your screen, maybe you don't.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna make a note here.
So talk like high level, what it is. Maybe give an example.
Yep. And then the second half of the video, you pull up their careers page and you mention that you have a few specific ideas of how they could improve their employment brand as experienced by people visiting the career page. But if they want to hear what those ideas are, they've got to talk to you.
Okay.
So now again, you've closed one loop by telling them what employment brand is and giving them some basic information about how you help that other dealership, right? Because our promise line was saying I recently worked with a similar dealership to give them these results. So first half of the video, you make good on that promise. You tell them vaguely, roughly what you did with that dealership to satisfy the curiosity and close that loop. And then you open up a new loop by saying, now here on your site, I noticed a couple of things stand out to me right away that could be improved upon. So anyways, if you want to talk about this more, let me know. And we can go over my specific suggestions for your site, as well as going over in general what my company does, right? And there's kind of your invitation, your call to action. Basically, again, you open that loop in their mind, you show them that there's a gap in their knowledge, make them curious, and then tell them, hey, the way to satisfy that curiosity is to talk to me. The way to scratch that itch is to reply to this email.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I think that makes sense. One question for you. So obviously, ideally, all of them should be super personalized on their website. I've heard different things about, finding, okay, so one example would be like, okay, employment brand. Another is like posting on one job board. Another is like, just not having enough time. So have you ever done, where you had like a photo library where you can blast off like, okay, if you saw when you're prospecting, you saw that these 20 dealerships have this problem. Have you ever done like like a video library where you can just go back and like send, maybe as like a second or third email? Because after you send the first personalized one, maybe you don't get a response. Maybe they're not answering your phone calls, but maybe having that like library full as like a second or third touch. Have you ever done anything like that before?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, I worked with a guy named Jason May earlier this spring. A lot of the ideas I shared with you kind of were versions of what he shared with me back in the spring. Yeah. And the campaign we built together, the first touch was personalized. Mm-hmm. And then the next like 4 touches were completely automated. Do you have any sort of automated email tool or no?
Yeah, we use Groove. We used to use SalesLoft. So it would be super easy to just like auto send those, maybe like 4 or 5 days or however many days after.
Yeah, so that's what we did. First one was personalized, and then I think it was 4 after that were automated. Same structure and framework as before of like pain, promise, open loop, closed loop. Just you did make it personalized to them is all.
It just can get super tedious for like the same person to like record like a very personalized email when at the end of the day they may not even take your call. So
or never even open the email or see the email. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that balancing act of quality versus quantity. You do have to keep that in mind. So I would consider reusable videos have a part of your strategy and personalized videos have a part of your strategy. You can kind of experiment where you get the most bang for your buck. Yeah. On the reusable side, I would highly encourage you to find some way to monitor who's watching it and who's not. I think in Vidyard, they have a way of tracking who's watching the video. A lot of email systems, when they click on the video, will register that as a link click. So if you turn on tracking for links inside your email sending system, you can go back and pull a report and see, okay, who clicked the links. When we use Outreach, that's how we did it. Was monitoring who clicked links, because that's what a video watch showed up as a link click. And then if somebody watches a video, you know to put a little extra energy into that person. So generally, if somebody watched a video, I'd be sending them a LinkedIn connection request. I'd be cold calling them at least once, if not twice. And I would usually send them a follow-up personalized video email. Sometimes I would just grab a whiteboard, write their name on it, and be like, hey there, Dave, reached out a few weeks ago, hadn't heard back, wanted to see if this was in fact relevant to you or not. Right? Something pretty quick and simple. Because the people who actually watch the video are absolutely worth the extra effort. It's just, most people, like you said, are never even going to open the email at all. So it stinks to spend that much time crafting these customized videos for people who are never even going to open the emails,
Which is kind of one of the reasons that I got away of video, because I was spending hours, huge chunks out of my day where I could be cold calling. Now that was 3 months ago. Now it's okay, well, no one's answering my calls. What can I do? I'm top of the leaderboard for calls, demo set, but they're not all holding, right? So it's what can I do to differentiate myself than every other salesperson? And I think video could be a really good way.
That's it. So yes, that'll be your full prospect email. Again, follow that format that I kind of shared with you. Pain and promise are the 2 lines below the video. In the video, you want to close a loop, make it on a promise, but then open up a new loop and invite them to talk to you to close the loop. And then again, make sure your subject line answers the what's in it for me question. And if you can, weave a little bit of curiosity, a little bit of mystery into the subject line. But when in doubt, a pure and simple what's in it for me subject line is good enough. It's just if you can leave some curiosity into and some mystery in there, that helps quite a bit.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the rest of the sales cycle, right, I would say probably the most important places to put video are pre and post appointment. So pre-appointment, what you're trying to do is a couple things. Basically, you're trying to lower their anxiety and increase the perceived value. Now, when I say anxiety, it's not like an intense emotional anxiety, but people oftentimes are wondering, is this person going to be obnoxious? Are they going to be boring? Are they going to be pushy? So there's that kind of anxiety going into a meeting. And mostly the anxiety is it going to be worth my time, right? Which kind of comes into the second piece, which is you ought to increase the perceived value of that meeting. Because the truth is, people have a totem pole of priorities, right? And generally your meeting is pretty low on the totem pole. So it really doesn't take much to get you knocked out of your spot, right? Hey, my dog's sick. Got to stay home with the dog. They puked on the carpet. Boom, your meeting's gone, right? It doesn't take much. One of my colleagues, I remember just last year, he had a meeting scheduled. He called at the time of the meeting and she said, oh, I'm sorry, Alex, I just can't hold the meeting today. And I'm decorating my Christmas tree right now. And he was like, oh, well, I'm glad to know where I rank in your priority list. You got to get that tree decorated. But talking to me.
Maybe I'll call someone else. Yeah. Well, no, I had this one guy and I called him and he's like, yeah, half our dealership got COVID. And I was like, okay. I was like, I'll call you back. Or this one guy I ran a demo with, I called him. He's like, yeah, someone in my family died from COVID last week. It's not a good time. And I was like,
yeah,
call him on.
Yeah, those will never change.
I send them flowers. I'm not really sure. Is that inappropriate? It's like, I'm not going to be that salesperson. I was like, we'll talk in a couple weeks. So.
And those will never change. But again, what you're trying to do is raise your place on that totem pole so that it takes a big event like a death in the family to get you knocked out of your spot, rather than something as trivial as decorating Christmas tree getting you knocked out of your spot. So generally the way you accomplish this is you send a video before the meeting, and in the video you're very relaxed and natural, which kind of answers the question, is this person going to be boring, right? If you're dynamic on camera, then they won't be boring. And if you're relaxed and casual and talk to them about how the meeting will benefit them, it kind of answers the question, will this person be pushy? And probably not. So the anxiety goes away about meeting you because they've seen you. They feel like they know what to expect at this point. There's no vague unknown in their mind anymore. And then to raise the perceived value, you just have to remind them why the meeting's beneficial to them. And generally this involves highlighting the pain point that got the meeting scheduled, right? Hey there, Deborah, thanks so much for scheduling me. I remember last week we were talking about you guys struggling with blank, blank, blank. And, we're going to be having a meeting tomorrow talking about how we can help with A, B, and C. So basically, here's the pain you talked about. And again, here's a promise as to what we can do, keeping it vague in general, of course, because you want to make this video short.
Yeah.
But generally, if you can do a 30-second, maybe a minute-long video where you remind them of the pain that drove them to schedule with you and make a promise to them as to what they'll gain by sitting through the meeting, and you do that in a very relaxed, casual tone, their anxiety goes away and the perceived value goes up.
I love
Make
that because
fun.
my demos have not been sticking this month. I had like 3 cancel, 4 ghost me. So I think even just setting that, like, even sending a reminder email in the morning, but including like a little bit personalized email, we're super excited to, have a conversation. I know last week we talked about this. Really just want to spend some time to see if we can help you in any way. Excited to have a call and just keep it like super casual, something like that. Do you think would be okay?
That's it. And 30 seconds is probably all you need, maybe 45 seconds, but you got to keep these things short. I'll tell you, in my world, when I was selling software before, the meetings were similar enough to each other. I was able to use a reusable video. We called them evergreen videos, which was a big time saver. You'll kind of figure out as you go forward whether or not they're similar enough to do that or not. I would say start off personalizing them, but again, if after 10 videos you realize they were all saying the same thing, then you probably could just do a reusable video to save yourself time.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, this was super helpful. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad I could help. So I'm going to send you over kind of the typed up framework that I had for that email. Feel free if you'd like, you can like flesh that out, edit it, adjust the wording, put a video in there, and then send it back to me. I can give you some kind of final feedback before you start using it in the wild.
Yeah.
Use videos before meetings. I think the last thing I'd say is use videos after meetings too. It's kind of like a recap. Here's what we talked about type thing. That's valuable for the owner themselves to remember why they spoke to you and why they should do business with you. But it's also helpful if the owner has to like run it by financing or run it by HR. They can kind of take your video and share it with them, which is nice. So recap video would be kind of my final suggestion there.
Awesome. Well, great. Thank you so much. You did record this. So if you could, I'll message you my email. I'd love to just like share it out with the team.